Hi everyone. So a few days ago I posted a video about us perhaps going on a journey of learning about emotional health together, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about that in this video. A while ago I was reading a book, and in the book the guy described people as icebergs. And what he was saying was essentially the stuff that we present to people, the stuff that people see of us on a daily basis in our interactions with them, is really only the tip of the iceberg. And that really who a person is, their emotions, their feelings, their fears, the things that they're ashamed of, or their dreams, or maybe the stuff they need to work through with God in order to step into freedom, all of that stuff is actually below the surface. And the guy who wrote this book was saying that if you want to grow in emotional health and step into freedom, you have to actually be willing to go below the surface and invite God into that place to reveal stuff and help you work through stuff so that you can grow and develop and step into being emotionally healthy and free. And I think when it comes to going below the surface and being willing to go there, I think there is a spectrum of people and different ways of dealing with things that you will come up against and you will come across, and perhaps it would be worth you seeing where you fit in this spectrum. I think at this end of the spectrum, we'll call it, this is people who have no self-awareness. So at this end of the spectrum, you've got people who don't know what they're feeling. They don't know how to connect emotionally. They don't know what's going on for them. They don't look below the surface. They just live, they interact, and that's it. And these are the kind of people that often everyone else around them is aware there's an issue, but they're just not aware. So people will look at their behaviour or see an angry response or hear what comes out of their mouth, and they'll think, gosh, something's not quite right there. I think they're believing a lie, or they think there's some pain they need to process, or there's some stuff there that they need to deal with. And so everyone else will see what's going on and be aware of it, but they won't be. And they don't look below the surface, and they just aren't willing to go there, or they don't know how to. So that's one end of the spectrum. I think at the other end of the spectrum, we have got introspection. So at this end of the spectrum, you've got people who are hyper aware of what's going on. They're always looking below the surface. They're always introspective. They're over-analytical and often very critical of themselves. Everything's an issue. There's always a lie to deal with. There's always something they need to work through with Jesus in order to get themselves more free and to make themselves more presentable to Jesus. The danger with this end of the spectrum is that people can end up trying to sanctify themselves. They fall into what I call self-sanctification, and rather than trusting God to sanctify themselves, they will do that in their own strength. They'll be self-reliant and they'll try to fix themselves, and that's unhealthy too. So the place we really want to aim for is this middle ground, and in this middle ground we are looking to be led by the Holy Spirit. So we're looking to be basically followers of Jesus. We're basically looking to allow him to lead us, to guide us, to give him permission to go below the surface and to search us and to know our hearts, just like the psalmist said, "Search me, O God." We're giving him permission to do that, but we're letting him lead us. We realize he's the one who's going to set us free. He's the one who's going to sanctify us. We don't have to fix ourselves. We can't actually. And so maybe have a think about where you fit along this spectrum. Obviously these two are extremes, but you will probably lean towards one way or the other. And I would say if you're at this end of the spectrum and you possibly don't have loads of self-awareness, I would say just begin to invite God to speak into your life. Invite him to go beneath the surface. Ask him to help you to identify things, to highlight things. And also, I think, rely on friends and family members. It's often our friends or our spouses or our families who can see what's going on for us before we can. And so it's important for us to stay humble and to allow people to speak into our lives and to receive what they're saying, and then go on a journey with the Holy Spirit to work stuff through and to pray when you need to and express emotion when you need to step into more freedom. And if you're at this end of the spectrum, I would just encourage you, this is the way that I definitely lean, I would encourage you, what you need to do is, when an issue pops up, rather than straight away jumping into, I need to fix that, I need to solve that, I think you've got to take a moment to pause and say, Holy Spirit, are you bringing this up for me? Are you the one putting your finger on this? And what do you want me to do with it? Because sometimes it's us just finding something to deal with. We're just thinking, I need to work that through, and actually God hasn't said so. Sometimes God reveals something and we jump into fix-it mode, but we actually end up doing the wrong thing. We actually don't do the thing that he actually wants us to do with it. And so I think you've got to ask the Holy Spirit, okay, Holy Spirit, I think you're putting your finger on this. What do you want me to do with this? And see what he says and let him lead you. And again, I think use friends. Let friends and family members help you with that. You can tell them, I think this has popped up, and they can ask you, what do you think the Holy Spirit wants you to do? And you can work it out together. I think the ultimate aim is that whichever end of the spectrum we're at, that we start to move more towards this middle place where we are living lives where we're following Jesus, where we're letting the Holy Spirit reveal stuff to us, we're inviting him to go beneath the surface, but also we're trusting him to lead us, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves, and we're trusting that he is the one who's going to change us. He is the only one who can bring us into freedom. He's actually really, really good at it, and so we don't have to do it ourselves in our own strength. So maybe have a look at this, see where you think you lean, and go on a journey of moving more towards the middle where the Holy Spirit leads you, and you can step increasingly into emotional health and freedom.